The moment we stepped into first class, the air shifted. Eyes followed us, not with welcome, but with suspicion. A flight attendant's smile froze mid-air when she saw our tickets. "These must be mistakes," she said, blocking our way. I glanced at my brother, Micah. His jaw tightened, but he stayed quiet. We'd been warned about moments like this. What we didn't know was that this flight would unravel secrets, test loyalties, and force strangers to choose sides. By the time we landed, reputations would shatter, alliances would flip, and the world would know exactly who we were and what we could do. The leather scent of the first-class cabin was intoxicating, a rare luxury Micah and I had earned. Or so we thought. My boarding pass still felt warm in my hand as we stepped over the threshold. Then, the warmth drained from the room. A woman in a crisp navy uniform, her name tag reading Linda Brooks, cut in front of us, her smile tight, her posture blocking the aisle like a locked gate. "Gentlemen, I think there's been a mistake," she said, glancing at our tickets without taking them. Her tone had the kind of politeness that feels like a slap. "No mistake," Micah replied, voice calm but clipped. "Seats 2A and 2B, paid in full." Linda's eyes flicked over us again, slower this time, as if trying to peel back the truth from our skin color alone. "First class is fully booked. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable in the main cabin." Comfortable. The word rolled around in my head, sour and sharp. She wasn't asking. She was telling. Before I could answer, a cough sounded from behind. A man in a tailored gray suit checking his watch theatrically. "Some of us have connections to make," he muttered, loud enough for others to hear. His impatience drew eyes from every corner of the cabin. Whispered comments fluttered through the air like gnats. Micah's jaw tightened. I knew that look. He was seconds away from letting his temper out, and when Micah's temper came out, it rarely went back in quietly. My hand brushed his arm, the silent signal we'd perfected growing up. Not yet. That's when Evan Price appeared. His uniform matched Linda's, but his smile was warm, even sympathetic. "Hey, I'm sure we can sort this out," he said, gesturing for Linda to give us a moment. For an instant, relief flickered in my chest. Finally, someone on our side. But then I noticed it. His left hand sliding into his pocket, phone screen glowing. He typed quickly, his thumb darting across the glass, then angled the device just enough toward Linda for her to glance down. Her lips curved, not in kindness, but in the satisfaction of a plan moving forward. Whatever Evan had sent, it wasn't to help us. The aisle behind us filled as more passengers boarded, their voices rising with curiosity. I caught fragments. "Do they work here? Must be a mix-up." "You'd think they'd check." Each word was a pinprick under my skin. Linda stepped aside just enough for a tall man with silver hair to pass. She didn't stop him to check his ticket. She didn't even look at him twice. Micah inhaled sharply, the kind of breath you take before diving into deep water. I could feel the weight of every eye in the cabin, waiting to see what we'd do next. We walked to our seats anyway. If they wanted a show, they were going to get one, but it would be on our terms. The seat's leather was cool against my palms, but my mind wasn't on comfort. My eyes scanned the cabin, taking in the sideways glances, the deliberate avoidance of eye contact from some, the lingering curiosity from others. I'd seen all of it before, just never with quite this much stage lighting. It reminded me of the morning, hours earlier, when our father leaned against the hood of his black sedan outside our apartment. The city still smelled of rain, streets damp and glistening. He'd been in one of his rare casual moods, wearing a dark sweater instead of a suit, but his eyes carried the same weight they always did. "Whatever happens, let them dig their own graves," he told us, his voice low but firm. "You don't need to fight to win. You just need to last long enough for the truth to show." Micah had laughed, trying to shake off the gravity of the advice. "We're just taking a flight, Dad." Father's lips twitched in a way that wasn't quite a smile. Flights have a way of showing you the sky and the ground in the same hour. Now, sitting in seat 2A, I understood exactly what he meant. The sky above us was the polished veneer of first class. The ground was the undertow of doubt that Linda had planted the second we stepped in. Micah busied himself stowing his bag, but I stayed alert. That's when I caught it. Evan, leaning slightly toward the aisle, phone in hand. He wasn't scrolling. He was framing a shot. Our boarding passes, still sticking out from the seat pocket, perfectly in view. His camera clicked without the faintest shame. I watched him swipe the image open, fingers moving fast to crop and zoom. Then he tapped out a message. Even from across the aisle, I could read enough. 2A and 2B. Confirmed. Keep them until... The rest vanished as he tilted the phone away. The receiver's name was hidden behind a blocked contact icon. I leaned back, forcing my breathing steady. Confronting him now would only feed whatever plan was in motion. But my skin prickled with the awareness that we weren't just being watched, we were being documented. For what purpose, I couldn't yet guess. Micah glanced at me, sensing something off. I gave a small shake of my head. Not now. Outside the oval window, the jet bridge connected, sealing us into this pressure cooker. I thought again of Father's words. Last long enough for the truth to show. We were going to last. But I had a feeling the truth waiting to be revealed was going to be a lot uglier than either of us had prepared for. Linda reappeared before the seatbelt sign even flickered on. Her smile was stretched so thin it could snap. She crouched slightly, making her voice low enough to suggest confidentiality, but loud enough for nearby passengers to overhear. "Gentlemen," she began, "first class is usually designed for our business travelers, not..." Her pause was deliberate, the ellipsis hanging heavy in the air. "Not for situations like this." Micah straightened, his tone sharp but measured. "Our father is a lifetime Diamond member with Aurora Air. He booked these seats himself." Linda's head tilted, her expression somewhere between pity and disbelief. "Yes, well, loyalty programs do have exceptions." Before Micah could respond, a dry chuckle floated over from across the aisle. An older man in a navy blazer leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. His face was creased from age and judgment in equal measure. "Back in my day, you worked your way up to first class," he said, his voice pitched for the whole cabin. "Didn't just waltz in with a phone ticket." A ripple of quiet amusement passed through a few passengers. Micah's jaw tightened again, but he pressed on. "We worked our way up. You just don't know our story." Linda cut in before the exchange could deepen, her voice firm. "Why don't we revisit this after takeoff? For now, perhaps you could move..." She didn't finish, because just then a woman slipped into the empty seat 2 rows ahead, luggage still tagged with an economy boarding pass. Her long scarf trailed as she settled in, flipping her hair back without a glance toward the crew. No one stopped her. No one asked for her ticket. Linda glanced her way and then back to us, as if the intrusion didn't exist. I caught Micah's eye. He'd noticed too. The double standard was so blatant it was almost laughable if it weren't aimed squarely at us. "Excuse me," I said, my voice carrying just enough. "Are you going to check her ticket?" Linda's lips tightened. "We're in the middle of a boarding process. We'll handle all seating issues in due time." But due time never seemed to come for anyone except us. The woman in the scarf reclined her seat slightly, scrolling her phone as if the world outside her bubble didn't exist. Around us, the hum of boarding continued. Overhead bins slamming shut, safety briefings beginning in muffled tones. But the tension stayed locked tight in our corner of the cabin. Micah leaned closer. "They're not just trying to move us," he whispered. "They're trying to make sure we don't belong here at all." And with every passing minute, it was getting harder not to prove them right, at least in the way they hoped we would. The voice came from 2 rows back, steady and clear, slicing through the low murmur of the cabin. "Excuse me, but is there an actual policy that prohibits passengers their age from sitting in first class?" Linda froze for half a second before turning toward the speaker, a woman in a tailored charcoal blazer, dark hair swept neatly into a bun. She sat with perfect posture, an open leather folio on her lap. Her tone wasn't hostile, but it had the kind of precision that leaves little room to evade. "I'm sure the airline has its protocols," Linda replied, her smile tight. "Protocols are one thing," the woman said, "but policies are written, measurable, and consistent. Which one is it in this case? Passengers around us shifted in their seats, the tension now reframed as a public exchange. Linda's gaze flicked toward Evan, who stepped closer as if to close ranks. Ma'am, we're in the process of verifying the seating. It will all be resolved shortly. The woman arched an eyebrow. That's not an answer. I recognized the name stitched onto her leather folio. Selena Ward. It clicked. The civil rights attorney I'd read about last semester, known for turning quiet discrimination cases into headline-grabbing court victories. Micah's hand brushed against mine. A silent tap. When I glanced at him, I saw the faint glow of his phone screen tucked low against his thigh. The recording app was open, red timer ticking. 13 minutes and counting. You've been recording since we boarded? I murmured under my breath. He gave the tiniest nod. They want to play games? Let's keep the score. Linda, perhaps sensing the shift in control, straightened her posture. Sir, ma'am, let's not disrupt the boarding process. Selena leaned back but didn't drop her gaze. No disruption here, just accountability. The overhead speakers chimed with a boarding announcement, but it did nothing to dull the current running between our seats and the galley. I could feel it. The moment when an imbalance begins to tip, not all at once, but with the slow inevitability of gravity. Evan leaned in toward Linda, muttering something I couldn't hear. Her reply was sharper, an almost imperceptible shake of the head. I looked past them to the reflection in the galley's stainless steel panel. In it, I saw Micah adjusting his phone to capture both of them in frame. His expression was calm, even casual, but his eyes were locked in. That was the first real sign. We weren't just reacting anymore. We were gathering pieces. And sooner or later, those pieces would form a picture neither Linda nor Evan would want anyone to see. I slid my phone from my jacket pocket, the glass cool against my fingers. My thumbs moved without hesitation. Years of quiet crises had taught me the value of speed over hesitation. Boarded. Problem with crew. Need you to know. I attached a brief voice note, the muffled sounds of Linda's clipped tone carrying through the background, and hit send. Micah caught the motion. Finally, he muttered. Let's get Dad on this. The reply came faster than I expected, the phone vibrating once. I opened the message. 5 words. Don't do anything, I'll handle it. That was it. No explanation, no timeline. Just that. I typed back immediately. They're pushing us to move. One already took photos of our tickets. This isn't minor. Nothing. The typing indicator didn't appear. The red receipt didn't even ping. It was like he'd dropped those 5 words into our laps and then stepped off the map entirely. Micah leaned closer, eyes narrowing. What does that mean? Handle it? From where? He's not even in the same state. I don't know, I said, locking the screen. But if he's telling us not to act, it means he's already moving pieces we can't see. Micah's frustration was clear in the restless way his foot tapped against the floor. I hate waiting. I hated it too, but I'd learned the hard way that our father's version of handling things rarely meant sitting still. The man could orchestrate logistics across continents. A tense flight was hardly uncharted territory for him. Still, the silence was a weight pressing into my ribs. Evan passed down the aisle with a tray of pre-departure drinks. He didn't meet our eyes, but I noticed the brief flick of his phone screen as he turned his back. A new message, another photo, always moving in the periphery. Selena caught my gaze from 2 rows back, her expression unreadable. She'd seen me checking my phone. I gave her a slight nod. Not enough to signal openly, but enough to confirm. Someone outside this cabin was already involved. The engines rumbled faintly beneath us, the pushback sequence beginning. Linda appeared again, her smile rehearsed but her eyes tight. Gentlemen, we'll revisit your seating after takeoff, she said, as if our presence was a pending mistake she intended to correct. I didn't answer. Micah didn't either. Instead, we sat in perfect stillness, a kind of quiet rebellion that said, we're not moving and we're not cracking. If our father was pulling strings somewhere far above us, the best thing we could do now was exactly what he'd told us. Nothing, for the moment. The seatbelt sign had barely dimmed when Linda's name crackled over the intercom. Her head jerked toward the galley phone, confusion etched into her features. She picked it up, pressing it to her ear. Whatever she heard made her eyes widen slightly before narrowing into something guarded. Then her voice, suddenly sharper, echoed through the cabin speakers. "Mr. Carter, I have your father on the line." Before I could react, another voice replaced hers. Deep, calm, and resonant. The kind of voice that fills a room even when filtered through static. "This is Jonathan Carter," our father announced. "My sons will remain in their assigned seats for the entirety of this flight. Those seats are 2A and 2B. They were purchased through my Diamond Lifetime account and are not subject to removal." The effect was immediate. Conversations in the cabin died mid-sentence. Even the flight attendant in the economy section paused mid-pour, glancing toward first class as though the words had traveled down the aisle like a gust of wind. Micah's shoulders straightened, a hint of relief passing through him. Across the aisle, the older man in the navy blazer looked away, pretending sudden interest in the in-flight magazine. Selena leaned forward, her eyes catching mine with the faintest trace of a smirk. But the moment of satisfaction fractured quickly. As Linda murmured a stiff acknowledgement into the phone, Evan stepped close to her, leaning in with a hand shielding his mouth. "Orders from upstairs," I caught him whispering. "We keep them uncomfortable until landing." Linda didn't glance at me, but her posture shifted. A rigid, squared-off stance like someone bracing for impact. My pulse kicked up. This wasn't just petty discrimination. There was intent, a plan that went beyond a crew member's personal bias. Our father's voice returned, sharper now. "Ms. Brooks, I'm also in direct contact with Aurora Air's executive operations team. I expect a written incident report filed before this flight lands. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Linda said. The words clipped. The call ended with a decisive click, but the echo of his authority lingered in the air. Passengers began murmuring, not about us, but about what they'd just witnessed. "That's their dad?" someone whispered. "Sounded like a CEO," another replied. Micah exhaled slowly. "Think that's enough to shut them down?" I shook my head. "You heard, Evan. They've got instructions from higher up. This isn't over." And as the drink service resumed, Linda's smile was back in place, but it didn't reach her eyes. Selena didn't raise her voice, but the clarity of her words carried across the cabin like a bell. "For anyone wondering," she began, turning slightly so both the crew and nearby passengers could hear, "I'm an attorney specializing in civil rights cases, and I've been documenting everything since boarding." The shift in the air was immediate. Heads turned. Even the businessman in the tailored suit who had avoided eye contact earlier now looked up, suddenly attentive. Linda's polite mask slipped for a fraction of a second before snapping back into place. "Ma'am, that's not necessary." "It's absolutely necessary," Selena cut in, calm but unyielding. "Because what I've witnessed is a clear case of disparate treatment. And the fact that it's still happening after a direct call from their father makes it even more concerning." From 2 seats behind her, a man with salt and pepper hair removed his reading glasses. "Dr. Naveen Kapoor," he introduced himself. "I've flown first class on this airline for nearly 2 decades. I've seen children, white children, seated here countless times without anyone questioning them. The difference today is obvious." A ripple of agreement moved through the row behind him. Someone muttered, "Exactly," under their breath. Linda shifted her weight, clearly uncomfortable under the combined scrutiny. Evan stood a step behind her, his eyes darting between faces, calculating. Then the overhead chime sounded, and the captain's voice filled the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I'd like to apologize for the delays during boarding and thank you for your patience. We value every passenger on board." For a brief, electric moment, I thought he was going to name us, address the tension directly. But then he continued, "This message is for our economy cabin. We'll be extending complimentary beverages to you for the inconvenience. Thank you again for flying with us." Micah's eyebrows shot up. "Economy?" he whispered. "That's it?" Selena's lips pressed into a thin line. Dr. Kapoor shook his head, his expression darkening. The captain had sidestepped the heart of the issue entirely, throwing a blanket apology in the wrong direction. Linda used the distraction to step back toward the galley, murmuring something to Evan. He nodded once, glancing toward us with an expression that felt less like service and more like surveillance. Around us, passengers in first class began whispering again. The mood split. Some clearly uncomfortable with what they'd seen, others pretending nothing was wrong. Micah leaned toward me, voice low. They think if they ignore it long enough, it'll go away. I met his gaze. Then we make sure it doesn't. Linda's return to the cabin was interrupted by the shrill ring of the interphone at the front galley. She answered, nodded stiffly, then extended the handset toward Evan. His reaction was quick, a step back, palms up, but she insisted. Reluctantly, he took it. From my seat, I could just make out the words, "Yes, sir. Understood. They're still here." His tone was suddenly deferential, almost nervous. Micah glanced at me, but my attention was fixed on Evan's other hand. It slid into his pocket, pulling out his phone in one smooth motion. The screen lit up, revealing a message thread. He typed quickly, "Keep them quiet until landing. Orders stand." The recipient's name was hidden, but the urgency was unmistakable. I shifted in my seat, angling for a clearer view. Before I could catch more, Evan hit send, locked the screen, and handed the phone back to his other hand, still holding the interphone. The conversation on the line ended abruptly. Evan returned the handset to Linda, who hung it up with a clipped motion. Her face was pale but rigid, the mask of someone caught between two opposing forces. Seconds later, my phone buzzed. A single message from Dad. "Calling CEO now." Micah saw it too. "That's it," he murmured. Within minutes, the cabin's hush was broken by the sound of the interphone again. Linda picked it up, listened silently, then handed it to Evan once more. He hesitated, longer this time, before taking it. "Yes, sir. I understand." Immediately. The last word hung in the air like a verdict. When Evan hung up, his eyes didn't meet ours. Instead, he and Linda walked briskly to our row. "Gentlemen," Linda began, her voice stripped of its earlier condescension. "Captain Harrington will be speaking with you shortly." Before we could respond, the captain himself stepped out from the cockpit. His presence filled the narrow aisle. "I've been instructed by Aurora Air's CEO, Mr. Hayes," he said, loud enough for the front rows to hear, "that you are to remain in these seats without further disturbance. This order is effective immediately." Whispers rippled through the cabin. The older man in the blazer shifted uncomfortably. The woman in the scarf avoided my gaze entirely. Micah exhaled, slow and deliberate. Guess the chain of command works both ways. But I kept thinking about that message I'd seen on Evan's phone. Someone higher up had wanted us contained, silenced, until we were back on the ground. The question now wasn't whether we'd make it to Los Angeles in these seats. It was why they were so desperate to keep us from being heard before we landed. The landing gear thumped against the runway, and the cabin jolted forward with a familiar deceleration. But instead of the usual rustle of passengers gathering their belongings, there was a strange electric stillness. People were waiting, watching, to see what would happen next. Micah's phone vibrated first. He glanced at the screen, then tilted it toward me. A flood of notifications from social media. The video Selena had recorded, Linda blocking our path, Evan's curt exchanges, were already online, racking up views by the tens of thousands. By the time we taxied to the gate, the count had doubled. Headlines were popping up. Aurora Air accused of racial profiling in first-class incident. The comments section was a firestorm. The seatbelt sign dinged off, but instead of the crew cheerfully dismissing us, two uniformed airport security officers stepped into the cabin. They moved with quiet precision, stopping at Linda and Evan's positions in the galley. "Ms. Brooks, Mr. Price, you'll need to come with us," one officer said. His voice was polite but unyielding. Linda's face went rigid. "Is this necessary?" "Orders from Aurora Air Corporate," the officer replied. They were escorted down the aisle, the eyes of every passenger trailing them. A few people even pulled out their phones again, capturing the walk of shame. Micah leaned back in his seat, exhaling. Didn't expect it to happen this fast. Neither did I. But the real shock came moments later, when a ground operations supervisor approached our row. She was a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a badge that read M. Ruiz, Station Manager. "I saw those videos before you even landed," she said quietly, glancing over her shoulder to ensure no one else was listening. What you experienced, it's not the first time. And it's not just those two. Micah frowned. What do you mean? She hesitated, then continued. There's an unwritten protocol. Certain crew members flag passengers they think don't fit the first-class profile. It's unofficial, but it happens. They make the flight uncomfortable until the passenger either moves voluntarily or complains in a way they can use against them. The words hit harder than the landing. It wasn't random prejudice. It was a system. Why are you telling us this? I asked. Her eyes met mine, steady. Because now it's public. And once it's public, it can't be ignored. Just be ready. The higher-ups will want to contain this before it spreads further. She moved on before we could ask more, leaving us with the weight of what she'd said. If this was a pattern, then the battle we just fought on one flight was only the opening move in something much bigger. By the time we reached the terminal, Selena's video had exploded past 1 million views. The comments weren't just angry, they were organized. Hashtags calling for boycotts of Aurora Air were trending across multiple platforms, and screenshots of Linda and Evan's faces were already being shared alongside demands for their firing. Micah scrolled through the feed, shaking his head. It's like watching a fire catch on every rooftop at once. Then my phone buzzed with a news alert. Jonathan Carter, CEO of Carter Global Logistics, announces immediate suspension of all business travel with Aurora Air. The headline was followed by a quote from our father. Until Aurora Air can guarantee fair and equal treatment for all passengers, they will not receive a single dollar from my company or its partners. Micah let out a low whistle. He didn't just pull our tickets. He's pulling an entire fleet's worth of business. The story was already being picked up by major networks. Pundits on morning shows were debating corporate accountability, civil rights in luxury spaces, and whether this incident would force industry-wide changes. We were still digesting all of it when a sharply dressed man approached us in the baggage claim area. He extended a card before even introducing himself. Marcus Lang, Senior Brand Director, Skyreach Airlines, he said smoothly. We've been following what happened. Skyreach has a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination, and we'd like to invite you both to be the faces of our new campaign, First Class for Everyone. Micah blinked. You want us in commercials? Not just commercials, Marcus replied. Speaking engagements, social media features, real involvement in shaping the policy we advertise. We're not asking you to endorse us blindly. We're offering you a seat at the table to make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else. It was tempting, but the timing was surreal. Just hours ago, we'd been treated like we didn't belong. Now we were being courted as the poster boys for belonging everywhere. I glanced at Micah. We'll think about it, I said carefully, slipping the card into my pocket. Marcus nodded. Of course. Just know the offer stands, and it's not contingent on the public outrage dying down. If anything, we hope it doesn't. As he walked away, Micah exhaled. From humiliation to a PR pitch in under a day. That's something. I wasn't sure yet if it was an opportunity or another trap, but one thing was certain. The eyes of the public weren't just on Aurora Air anymore. They were on us, and they were expecting our next move. The meeting was held in a private conference room at a downtown hotel, the kind of place where the carpet swallows footsteps and every wall is soundproof. Richard Hayes, CEO of Aurora Air, was already standing when we entered. Tall, composed, with the weary look of someone who had spent the past 48 hours in crisis mode. Mr. Carter, Malik, Micah, he greeted, shaking each of our hands in turn. I appreciate you taking this meeting so quickly. Our father's tone was cool but civil. You left us little choice. The damage is public, and the responsibility is yours. Hayes nodded once, accepting the rebuke without protest. That's why we're not here to debate what happened. We're here to fix it. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were bullet points in clean corporate language. Overhaul of crew training, mandatory anti-bias education for all employees, creation of a passenger advisory council with diverse membership, and a written commitment to transparency in complaint resolution. And, Hayes added, we'd like both of you to be directly involved in our new training program. Your experience, told in your own words, will carry more weight than any seminar. Micah exchanged a glance with me. The offer was unexpected and potentially powerful. "I'm not interested in being a token," I said. "Nor am I offering that," Hayes replied. "This is about systemic change. We'll compensate you as consultants, not as figureheads." While my father negotiated specifics, my eyes wandered to the end of the table where Selena sat quietly. She wasn't part of the airline. She was here at our invitation as a witness and informal advisor. She was taking notes on a slim laptop, her face calm, but her fingers moving with deliberate speed. When she shifted the screen slightly, I caught a glimpse. Lines of text, not from this meeting, but from a legal document. The header read, "United States District Court, Class Action Complaint." Beneath it, Aurora Air's name was listed as the primary defendant. Selena noticed my glance, but didn't pause. She gave the faintest shake of her head, as if to say, "Not here, not yet." Hayes continued outlining the reform plan, unaware of the separate battle already in motion. My father agreed to a provisional partnership, contingent on visible progress within 6 months. When we stood to leave, Hayes extended his hand again. "This isn't just about avoiding another scandal," he said. "It's about making sure we deserve the trust of every passenger." I shook his hand, but my mind was on Selena's screen. The airline thought this meeting was the start of the solution. They didn't know another front had already been opened, and this one wouldn't be negotiated in a hotel conference room. 1 year later, the winter air in Chicago carried the crisp scent of fresh snow as we stood before a sleek glass building emblazoned with silver letters, "Carter Center for Inclusive Excellence." Cameras flashed from every angle, journalists calling our names, but the moment felt bigger than any headline. Inside, a crowd of employees, advocates, and community leaders filled the atrium. My father took the podium first, his voice carrying with the authority we'd always known. "This center is not a monument to a single incident," he said. "It's a commitment to change, to accountability, to the belief that every person belongs where their ticket, their skill, or their dream takes them." When it was my turn, I spoke about the day on Flight 227, about how humiliation had been turned into a blueprint for reform. Micah followed, his voice steady as he thanked those who had stood with us, from Selena to Dr. Kapoor, and the countless strangers who refused to stay silent. Then, as the applause swelled, a movement near the back caught my eye. A man stepped forward from the crowd, his posture uncertain but his expression resolute. It took a moment for recognition to set in. Evan Price. The last time I'd seen him, he was being escorted off a plane under the eyes of 100 passengers. Now, in a simple gray suit, he walked toward the stage. A murmur swept the room. He stopped at the foot of the podium and asked for the microphone. My father glanced at me, then handed it over. "I was part of the problem," Evan began, his voice steady but thick with something heavier than nerves. "I followed orders I knew were wrong. But after that day, I was interviewed by the internal investigation team. I told them everything, names, patterns, the unofficial rules we followed to decide who belonged in first class and who didn't." A ripple of surprise moved through the audience. "That testimony," Evan continued, "helped remove 3 senior managers who designed and enforced those rules. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I'm here to say I was wrong, and I'm committed to making sure no one else has to go through what you did." He stepped back, leaving the room in a silence that felt like a collective exhale. Micah leaned toward me. "Didn't see that coming." "Neither did I admitted. The ceremony closed with the unveiling of a plaque, not just with our family's name, but with a mission statement engraved beneath. "Dignity is not optional." As we left the stage, I felt the arc of the past years settle into place. Not as a neat ending, but as a bridge. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time since that flight, it felt like we'd landed somewhere worth staying.